Today, we're diving into the Ambatielo case, a fascinating 1953 dispute between Greece and the United Kingdom that shaped how international courts handle treaty obligations and arbitration. So, let's unpack what happened, why it mattered, and how it still influences international law today. Our story begins in the early 20th century with a Greek shipowner named Nicholas Eustache Ambatielos. Ambatielos was a businessman who loved ships, and in the years following World War I, he struck a deal with the British government to buy 9 vessels that were being built in British shipyards. Everything looked great at first, but things soon took a turn. The ship deliveries were delayed, costs skyrocketed, and Ambatielos couldn't keep up with payments. The British authorities seized the ships, and Ambatielos claimed he had been treated unfairly. So he did what any determined entrepreneur might do. He took the fight to court in the United Kingdom. Ambatielo argued in British courts that government officials had not acted in good faith. He said the delays and extra charges were unreasonable and that he had been denied access to justice. But the British courts dismissed his claims. Feeling that he had been wronged by both the shipbuilders and the British legal system, Ambatielo turned to his own government, Greece, for help. Now this is where the story gets interesting. Greece decided to espouse his claim, meaning the Greek government officially adopted his complaint as its own and brought it to the international stage. Greece accused the United Kingdom of violating a treaty signed way back in 1886, the Treaty of Commerce and Navigation between Greece and the UK. Under Article 15 of that treaty, Greek nationals were promised free access to the courts of justice in Britain. Greece said Ambatielo didn't get that the British courts had denied him justice. And to make things even more complicated, Greece invoked another clause, the Most Favored Nation clause, saying that Greek citizens should enjoy the same legal protections as citizens of other friendly nations. In 1951, Greece took the case to the International Court of Justice, or ICJ, the world's highest court for disputes between states. But before the judges could even talk about whether Ambatielos was right or wrong, they had to answer a procedural question. Could the ICJ even hear this case? The UK argued that the ICJ didn't have jurisdiction, that the dispute wasn't directly about the 1886 treaty. Instead, the British government said that, under a later 1926 declaration, any such disagreement should go to arbitration, not to the ICJ. So in 1952, the ICJ delivered its first judgment, saying, "We don't have the power to decide if the UK actually violated the treaty, but we do have the power to decide whether the UK must go to arbitration." Basically, the ICJ wasn't deciding who was right. It was deciding whether there should be a next step. Fast forward to May 19, 1953. The ICJ ruled that yes, the United Kingdom was obligated to submit to arbitration under the 1926 declaration. The court said the disagreement between Greece and the UK about Ambatielos's claim was a difference covered by that declaration. So the ICJ ordered both countries to work together and set up an arbitral commission to examine the merits of the case, whether Ambatielos truly suffered a denial of justice. In other words, the ICJ said, "We're not deciding who's right, but we are saying you must arbitrate this dispute." Now, you might be wondering, why does all this matter today? The Ambatielo case became a cornerstone for understanding how international courts and treaties work. Here are the key takeaways: jurisdiction versus merits. The ICJ drew a clear line between deciding whether it can hear a case and deciding the case itself. That distinction still guides international courts today. Treaty obligations. The case showed that countries can be legally bound to arbitrate disputes when a treaty says so, even if they don't want to. State responsibility for justice. It reaffirmed that if a foreign national doesn't get fair treatment in domestic courts, their home country can take up their case internationally. The MFN clause. The idea that a most favored nation clause can extend procedural protections, like fair trial rights, has influenced countless investment treaties and human rights arguments since. So what happened after the ICJ decision? An arbitration tribunal was eventually formed, and it looked again at Ambatielo's claim. Ultimately, the tribunal found no violation by the UK, meaning Ambatielo didn't win in the end. But the legal principles that came out of the ICJ's decisions lived on, shaping international law and arbitration practices for decades. The Ambatielo case teaches us that international law is not just about grand political issues. It can start from a single businessman's dispute and end up defining how nations interpret treaties. It's a powerful example of how the law evolves, balancing fairness, sovereignty, and the rule of law between nations. So next time you hear about international arbitration or treaty interpretation at the ICJ, remember Nicholas Ambatielo, the Greek shipowner whose battle for justice reached the world's highest court and left a lasting mark on international law. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your fellow law students or history buffs.